Let's step straight into one of the most mysterious and isolated environments on Earth. Imagine a jungle so dense, it feels like it literally never opens up. A place where, even at high noon, the canopy is so thick, the sky is practically invisible. We're talking about the Monteverde cloud forest in Costa Rica, an ecosystem that survives on a razor-thin, delicate balance. Today in this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly how this magical place actually breathes, the incredible unseen life it hides, and the invisible, silent threat that's slowly pushing it to the brink. There's a local saying about Monteverde that you really need to picture. They call it a forest that never opens, where at 12 p.m. the sky is unseen and clouds walk on the ground. When you're actually standing there, the silence is so absolute that the sound of your own breathing can kind of start to scare you. And the mist, it isn't just something you see way off in the distance. It physically moves between the trees. It literally touches your face. It's a totally immersive sensory experience that feels, well, completely otherworldly. Okay, let's dive into this because the scale of life here is just staggering. 5%. That's a huge number when you consider that Costa Rica is a tiny Central American country. It makes up just 0.03% of the world's landmass, right? But somehow it holds more than 5% of the entire planet's biodiversity. To pack that much life into such a small space requires a highly unique geographical setup. And Monteverde, it's absolutely the crown jewel of that biodiversity. And the mechanics of this environment brilliantly illustrate exactly how this is possible. Monteverde sits up on the Tiburon mountain range, right around 5,000 feet above sea level. So here's what happens. First, warm, humid air sweeps in from the Atlantic Ocean. As it travels, it violently collides with those mountains, which forces it upward where it rapidly cools down. That sudden drop in temperature causes the moisture to condense into clouds right at ground level. So the plants here, they don't even wait for rain to fall. They literally drink the clouds right out of the air. And because they drink straight from the air, we get these absolute marvels of nature called epiphytes. You know, air plants. These are plants that spend their entire lives without ever touching the soil. Not once. They just cling to the branches of these massive trees, soaking up moisture through their leaves and bark directly from the mist. The canopy up there is so unbelievably dense with them that you can find up to 50 different species of epiphytes living on a single tree. It's basically an entire botanical garden suspended hundreds of feet up in the air. Absolutely mind-blowing. And nestled right in among those epiphytes are the orchids. Over 500 species of them. That's actually a world record for the highest number of orchid species in a single forest, anywhere on Earth. Some of these orchids are so incredibly microscopic, you can barely spot them with the naked eye. While others are so massive and vibrantly colored, it literally looks like someone took buckets of neon paint and just splashed them all across the jungle canopy. Now, relying entirely on this lush, mist-fed canopy is an animal so majestic, people travel from every corner of the globe just to catch a glimpse of it. The resplendent quetzal. This bird was considered sacred, actually equal to the gods by the ancient Mayans. It's got this stunning emerald green back that shines through even the thickest fog, a deep red chest, and a magnificent tail that can grow up to 3 feet long. When it takes flight, that tail waves through the air like a living, breathing work of art. But think about how fragile that is, though. This bird can only survive in this precise level of moisture. Now, what's really interesting about this ecosystem is that while the canopy is filled with all this breathtaking beauty, down beneath the birds, deep in the shadows of the damp forest floor, rules the silent phantom, the jaguar. This is the apex predator of Monteverde. We're talking about an animal that can weigh over 150 kilograms, yet it walks so silently you wouldn't even hear it if it were right behind you. They've got a bone-crushing bite that can snap a turtle shell in half, and night vision 6 times better than ours. Imagine standing in the pitch black of the forest, unable to see your own hands. Well, a jaguar can see you perfectly. But if the jaguar is the silent stalker of the ground, the monkeys up in the canopy are the exact opposite. Up there, you have this incredibly vibrant, noisy community. You've got the howler monkey, whose morning call is so deafening it can literally be heard 2 miles away. Then there's the white-faced capuchin. These guys are brilliant, highly intelligent primates that actually use rocks as tools to crack open nuts or hunt. And finally, the spider monkey, just effortlessly maneuvering through the trees like gravity doesn't even exist, using its highly muscular tail as a literal fifth hand. Let's bring our eyes back down to the damp, leaf-covered ground for a second, though. Researchers stepping foot in Monteverde have to watch every single step they take, and it's because of one creature, the Verde lance. It is hands down the most dangerous snake in Central America, responsible for the vast majority of snake bites in Costa Rica. It possesses this flawless camouflage that makes it look exactly like a pile of dead leaves. And if you stumble too close, it strikes in 140 milliseconds. That is literally faster than the human eye can track. But you know, nature is fascinating. Not everything dangerous tries to hide. Some creatures actually want you to see them. Just look at the vibrant oranges, blues, and reds of the poison dart frog. In this forest, those bright colors are basically nature's ultimate neon billboard screaming, "Do not touch me." The skin of just one tiny poison dart frog contains enough toxin to kill 10 grown humans. Indigenous tribes have known this for centuries, famously using this exact toxin to tip their hunting darts. So among all these highly specialized predators and poisonous amphibians, there's one creature that kind of works as the glue holding the entire ecosystem together, the tapir. This animal looks bizarre. Honestly, it's almost like a cross between a pig and a small elephant. It's this ancient, prehistoric creature that has survived for millions of years. In Monteverde, the tapir acts as a heavy-bodied gardener. It eats fallen fruits, tramps for miles across the forest floor, and spreads those seeds through its waste. Without the tapir doing the heavy lifting, the intricate web of this forest would just begin to collapse. To truly understand how all these different creatures actually coexist, you have to look at Monteverde's unique geography. Imagine standing on a swaying suspension bridge 50 feet up in the air, right on the Continental Divide. You are literally standing on the spine of the Americas. On one side, the water flows toward the Pacific Ocean, creating a much drier climate. But on the other side, it flows toward the Atlantic, keeping things constantly humid and misty. The collision of these two vastly different weather systems in one exact spot, that is exactly what creates this massive explosion of life. And let's look at how this builds into a really remarkable human story too. Back in 1948, Costa Rica did something amazing. They completely abolished their army. This peaceful stance ended up attracting a group of American Quakers in the 1950s who were fleeing the military draft. While other areas around them were being logged and cleared for farmland, these pacifist Quakers decided they needed to protect this forest. By 1972, they helped establish the official reserve, starting with just 328 hectares. Today, thanks to that initial forward-thinking vision, over 10,500 hectares of this incredible cloud forest are strictly protected. So, the locals saved the forest from the chainsaws and the bulldozers. They thought it was safe. But what happens when the mist itself disappears? Which brings us to the invisible threat, the one that fences and protected borders simply cannot stop. We know this forest survives because warm Atlantic air hits the mountains and cools into low-hanging clouds, right? But due to global climate change, the ocean's surface temperatures are rising. Because the ocean is hotter, the air coming off it is much warmer, and that means it has to rise much, much higher up the mountain before it finally gets cold enough to condense. As a result, the clouds are forming higher up, literally above the forest canopy, completely out of reach of the plants. So the crucial point we need to understand is this: we are witnessing the physical uplifting of an entire ecosystem. Back in the 1970s, the cloud cover was thick and rested right on the ground. But decades later, research shows the cloud base has shifted dozens of meters upward. Today, we're seeing the catastrophic results of that shift. The epiphytes, those amazing air plants that rely on the mist, they're drying out and dying. And the quetzal, that beautiful secret bird, it's migrating higher and higher up the mountain, desperately chasing the moisture. But eventually, they are going to run out of mountain. The tragic irony here is really hard to ignore. On a local level, the people of Monteverde are doing everything right. They are rigorously controlling tourism, they're heavily investing in reforestation, and they're expanding buffer zones to protect their home. But they're fighting a global threat. The problem isn't originating in Costa Rica. It's coming from factory emissions, vehicles, and the cumulative carbon footprint of the rest of the world. It's local action fighting a heroic but drastically uneven battle against global physics. The Monteverde cloud forest isn't just some beautiful tourist destination. It is a vital organ of our planet. It stores massive amounts of carbon, it regulates global water cycles, and it houses life found literally nowhere else in the universe. If it collapses, an entire irreplaceable system breaks right along with it. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. Knowing that our daily, global choices dictate the exact height of the clouds in Costa Rica, will we act to save them before the forest runs out of mountain? Think about it. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.